A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned, wear a hat, sometimes play chess. And when
Well, good morning and welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lydia Broderick and I'm a mixed media artist. And for those of you who do, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take you through a step-by-step tutorial on how to create a mixed media painting from start to finish using a lot of really fun products and a lot of cool techniques. So hopefully this will inspire you to create your own mixed media painting. So the first thing we need to start talking about is a color palette. So let's get started. So there is nothing more exciting than opening up a fresh canvas and imagining the creative possibilities that you are going to be able to explore on this unused surface. There's also sometimes nothing more daunting than having a large-scale blank canvas in front of you and thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, how am I going to fill that canvas with my creative possibilities? So what I like to do is come up with a color palette, the colors that I'm going to be using for said painting. And I kind of stick with those colors. Now, living in the Northeast, we experience seasons. And so I'm seasonally affected with my color palette. In the winter, it tends to be more of the Payne's gray and browns and everything that I'm seeing outside. But now we are entering springtime and sunshine and warmth. So I really wanted to work with a warmer color palette. How I do that is I do a little practice and I choose my colors with this little practice round. So I get a little practice canvas and I'll show you the one that I used. And because I was going to be starting this painting with acrylic inks, because they're cool and they're flowy and they're transparent, I did this little practice on this little canvas. And as you can see, you see a lot of these colors within this painting. So that is what I did to decide. So as you can see, we have a transparent burnt sienna. This is a crimson, a flame orange, Indian yellow, white, and I used a pink and a turquoise for some of my cooler colors because you can make a purple which complements the yellow and the turquoise kind of complements the orange. Okay, so I have my little glass palette set up, and the first thing that I want to do is I really want to get my canvas wet. Acrylic inks are going to flow a lot better if it's flowing on a wet canvas. So I really do my best to saturate the canvas by using a fine mist sprayer and a large brush. And then I get my ink set up. So when you're working with acrylic inks, you want to start from light to dark. Always start with your lightest tones. So I'm just kind of brushing on some of the lighter colors and continue to wet my canvas and keep it nice and moist. You can also lift your canvas up, you can get some nice drips in there, and then I can start adding some of my more vibrant colors. So I'm adding the crimson now, and then adding some pink and a little bit of white. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually kind of building the form. So you can see the shoulders and kind of the head area, and I'm getting a rough estimate of where those are going to be. And you continue to add some of your darker colors in there. You can create some nice dripping effects and a variety of different effects. So these are my little complement colors, and I'm adding a little bit of the turquoise. And then this is a really cool trick. If you spray a little rubbing alcohol onto your acrylic inks while they're drying, you get this really cool mottled effect. Now that the inks are dry, I'm sketching in my focal point, which in this case is a face. Portraits are kind of my thing, and I've been drawing them for more than half my life, but they can be really challenging for a lot of people. If you want to try some portraiture, my advice is to start with either a side profile, which is easiest, or a face that is straight on, and use a reference photo as a guide that has really good light and shadow. Unsplash.com is an excellent resource if you want to find some great royalty-free photos of people, birds, trees, you name it. Because I used a graphite pencil to do my sketch, I am now going to cover it with a matte gel medium so I don't lose my sketch when I add more paint to it. So I'm spreading out the matte gel medium with a catalyst wedge because if you brush it on, it will smudge your drawing. And then I'm just going to wait for it to dry. So now, in addition to the acrylic inks, which I will continue to use because they have this wonderful transparent effect, and at the beginning of a painting you always want to continue working with transparents, I'm also going to be doing some mark making. So I have some acrylic markers, I have some Posca markers, as well as these are really cool solid paint markers, and they give this crayon effect, which I really love. I'm also going to be using these water-based acrylic spray paints, which you can safely use indoors. They're artist grade and you can use them in the acrylic portion of your painting. At this point in the process, you can really have a good time. You can have fun. Just don't think about the outcome of the painting. Don't think about what you're going to do next. Just enjoy the moment. Be really loose. Just enjoy the process. As you can see in this part of the process, I'm really just still building with transparents. I'm layering on top of transparents with other transparents and making certain parts darker so you can still see the layers underneath. This is what's going to help create depth in your painting by still being able to see the layers that are underneath all of the other layers. That's why you really want to start off with a lot of transparents. So it's time to move on to the opaque acrylics, and what I'm doing right now is I'm taking a very dry brush and I am creating this kind of misty background. So you want to use a really dry brush for this, and you want to barely put paint on the brush so that you can get this misty effect. Then I'm going to be plotting out some of the places where I want to put flowers, and so this is basically what you do with the opaque acrylics. You start building in layers. This is also where I can start using my brighter colored acrylic markers, and I can start bringing some of those stencil lines into better prominence. I can't resist my opportunity to just be really kind of abstract at this point and doodle like I did when I was a kid. So I like to make a lot of different lines and just have fun with it. So, okay, we've gotten through all of the acrylic phase. I want to give you a quick tip when it comes to storing stencils. When you go shopping, keep these little hangers because you can put all of your stencils on these little hangers and then you store them and you know exactly where they are. That is my stencil tip for the day. Okay, let's talk about oil paint. So there are a couple of products that I use for the transparent oils. When I first start, you always start with transparent. Just like with the acrylic phase of this, when you go into the oil painting, you start with transparents the same way. And when you work with transparents, you work from light to dark. So I use Galcid Light and I use Galcid Gel. For when I want nice drippy consistency, I use Galcid Light because it's liquid, and I mix it with a little bit of thinner, and that way you can get all of the cool drips in a painting, those abstract drips from oil paint. This is more for when you want more of a localized glazing, I would say. And one more thing about these Galcid products, it helps speed up the drying of oil paint. And technically oil paint doesn't dry, it cures. But this makes it touch dry a lot faster. It's really great. The other thing is that it is totally safe to paint oils on top of acrylic. Some people don't realize that. You just can't do the other way around. If you paint acrylic on top of oil, your painting will crack. So we don't want that. So you have to wait till your acrylics are completely dry and then you can paint on top of the acrylics with oils. Let's talk about thinner real quick. So I use an Eco House citrus thinner when I'm oil painting, and it smells like oranges. It's pretty much, it's non-toxic. You don't want to drink it or anything like that, but it's non-toxic, so you're not going to get those fumes or anything like that, so you don't need to be afraid of that. The other thing is that you have what you call a sludge jar. So if you're new to oil painting, you get some mason jars. You keep your fresh thinner in a mason jar, and when you're done with it, you pour it into another mason jar, and this is called your sludge jar. Your sludge jar is going to contain all of the paint that sinks out from the thinner, and then you have clean thinner. It's self-cleaning. You just keep on pouring your old thinner into a jar, and then it sinks to the bottom. All the oil paint sinks to the bottom, and you have fresh thinner that you can reuse. So starting out with oils, I start by glazing her face with a warm brown, a burnt umber that's been thinned out, and I'm going to end up wiping the excess away. It's acting as a stain. So I go to the background and I'm using an alizarin crimson, which is a cool red, and you want to use cool colors for anything that is receding and warm colors for anything that is coming towards you. At this point, I'm basically stacking transparents working from light to dark. Because I already stained her face with the burnt umber, most of my midtones are already in place, so I can work on just adding brush strokes, stacking brush strokes with some of the lighter tones, and finishing with the highlights. And although it may look really light, like I'm just using white straight out of the tube, I'm not. This is mixed with a variety of different colors. There are blues, pinks, and it gives it more depth and dimension. Okay, well this concludes this video. This painting has been completed. It took me 2 days to do. I did all of the acrylic one day and then all of the oils the next day after it had completely dried. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm going to write a list of everything that I used and put it in the description, so please check the description below. And I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!